Yo, what's going on today, guys? It's your boy Zazo and I'm back again for another video. Today we're going to talk about something that's super important. If you want to become a software engineer, please watch this video because I'm going to talk about some things that aren't discussed in most videos. Let's go ahead and get into it. So you may see online and see all these different YouTube videos about working in remote locations, exotic areas, and just kind of, being off the grid type of software engineer. However, you've probably seen videos of software engineers living off the grid in exotic locations, having high salaries, and all of these different things. Although this can be the case, software engineering is actually very grind heavy to where you'll be in code, debugging, solving issues, getting frustrated a lot of the time. And it's not all rainbows and butterflies. In fact, majority of it will be more of that frustrating part. And then there will be very rare cases where stuff does work flawlessly. So the second thing is you always have to learn software engineering or in tech in general, because things are always moving. Tech is always moving. As we've seen, AI has popped out of nowhere and things are already moving and people are making stuff from and with AI. So there's a lot of times where people may actually become stagnant in their job, and that works for a decent amount of jobs where you can kind of basically know that job or know that area, and it changes very minimally over the years. Tech, software engineering specifically, is not like that. You'll always be constantly learning a new language or a new framework or a new library, a new concept, or even like a new paradigm that you're trying to implement. So it's always constant learning. So you'll be constantly uncomfortable is what I'm saying, because learning anything new is kind of uncomfortable. So that is another thing that you would have to consider if you're going to be or trying to be a software engineer. So the third thing is, a lot of people think that it is all about writing code. While you will be writing code on the job, a good majority of the job is actually communicating, whether that be with the business partners that you're developing for, the team that you're working in, or just more senior level developers to kind of pick their brains and understand how to think about a certain problem. A lot of people think, and it's really a myth, that you'll just be sitting in your corner coding for hours on hours a day. But the thing is that communication is a vital part, because if you're developing something for a business partner, freelance client, you're going to need to speak with them and get a really good handle on the requirements, because the last thing you want to do is develop something and then at the end of that you have to rework it because there was miscommunication or you didn't communicate enough, and now you have this product but it's not what that person wanted, what the business needed, or anything like that. So that's another thing to consider. The fourth thing is burnout is real. Tech jobs are very demanding, and if you're working in a startup, it can be even amplified by like 10x, because specifically your work solely depends on how the business will do. When you're working in a bigger company, that's not much of a thing, but being in code, learning all the time is actually, it leads to burnout a lot. And that's why you'll see a lot of people move away from tech, because it's always constant learning, developing, learning new things. Essentially, a lot of the time you always feel like you're in this rat race of not knowing. You get to a place where you know something and you know it very well, then here comes something else and you're back at square one, as in like you're just learning to walk again. This can be very daunting for some people, especially if you don't like to constantly learn. You like to kind of just know what you know and be good at just that. This is not necessarily, I wouldn't say not the right thing for you, but there is definitely going to be a mindset shift that has to take place in order for this to be a very enjoyable work environment or work experience if you're going into software engineering. So the next thing is we're going to speak about the reality of the job market. Yes, if you Google or any type of search as far as like software engineering jobs, and you can look in demand for 2025, 2026, whatever, in the next 5 years, that percentage is going to be a large percentage. However, that doesn't mean that competition is not there. Just because there's demands for the job, that's because a lot of things are technology based. And so they need obviously software engineers to develop software and different products or whatever it may be, internal, external tools and things like that. However, the competition is actually getting better and better. Like I stated in a previous video, when I was getting into tech or software engineering, it was very easy to get my foot in the door compared to now. There's a bunch of different things that are weighed into making that decision for hiring managers now, where previously a lot of different things could be, I say overlooked, weren't looked at as heavily. Like I stated earlier, communication. I had okay communication skills. However, I wasn't the best communicator, but I was able to bypass that. Now it may seem like companies are looking for the full package, which is true, even sometimes at an entry-level position, because you need all these different aspects and not just being able to code, because code is just, at this point, when you're dealing with large tech companies, code is just the bare minimum, right? You need to learn how to code if you're going to be a software engineer. That's almost like a given nowadays. For you to stand out, there's going to be need for different things, like being able to know how to design a system, communication skills, presenting information, telling somebody why you did it this way, why you chose this different tool, this framework, why you chose to go with the NoSQL database instead of a regular SQL database, what relational database I should say, and why are you doing that? It's not just about what you're doing. Oh, I'm going to make this here and there. It's about why are you doing that, and why is that the most optimal way to do it, and being able to explain that, communicate that clearly. So there's a bunch of different things that you have to do now that you didn't have to do previously, which can make it actually very hard to get a job in software engineering. All right, so here is another one. It's the high salary myth. Although software engineers do get paid well, it's very likely that you've seen online videos around, this Amazon worker that got paid $800,000 a year, those type of videos. And while those aren't impossible, those are unicorns. And at the end of the day, we have to be real with ourselves. When we're coming out the gate, fresh out of school, maybe not even fresh out of school, maybe we're switching careers, that's not going to be the salary that we're getting. However, it does depend on location, depends on the company, and different types of things. If you go into a company where they're product is technology, right? Something like a Meta, Google, things like that, then obviously their product is software, right? That is essentially how they make their money. You're going to likely have a better salary or a higher salary. But if you're working at grocery chain, or you're working at some type of bank, or you're working at something like that, then you got to realize their core business isn't technology. Although technology is important, some of those different things you may get paid a little bit lower, and fresh out the gate, it's probably not going to be that impressive. So don't have the expectation that you're going to go get out of school and just all of a sudden you're making 250K, 300K, 350K. Now, I'm not saying that to discourage anybody. And of course you can get there. And of course you may be skilled enough and have enough knowledge and skills to get there. However, it's not likely for just the normal person getting into it. But don't get me wrong, software engineering does pay well compared to a bunch of different other jobs. It's just the super high salaries that you may see online. You got to realize those are unicorns, and those people are very, very good at what they do, and they've had a bunch of exposure. And like I said, you can get there. The thing is you kind of have to follow the same path. Usually unicorns don't just happen. It's because they've had a very specific or niche path that has led them to have all that experience and knowledge that they do have. All right, so last but definitely not least, probably the most important is, in this field of software engineering, you have to enjoy solving a good problem. If you're the person that would essentially get a puzzle and give up, or anything like that and give up, software engineering is essentially that on a day-to-day basis. So you're handed basically a puzzle each day, and breaking this down very simply, but you're giving a puzzle every day, right? And you're essentially expected to build that puzzle day in and day out. However, sometimes the puzzle's missing a piece. Sometimes the puzzle doesn't have all of the pieces, right? And you still have to solve that puzzle no matter what, right? You have to find the pieces. You have to search, you have to learn, you have to do different things in order to get that puzzle made into a well-formed, essentially, end product. So if you don't enjoy problem solving and basically cracking those different problems on a day-to-day basis, this is probably going to be a very, very hard job for you, like mentally, because that's what you'll be doing on a day-to-day basis. And you can always go into software engineering, but chances are you will hate your job if you don't like solving problems. That's literally the whole job in itself, is solving problems, solving software problems, or making software solutions with a tool called programming or coding. That's essentially what the day-to-day is. Obviously, you're communicating with people. That's given in most jobs, but specifically with software engineering, you are solving specific problems with a specific skill, programming, which is also hard in its own to learn. Plus you have to basically solve these complex problems as well. So that's something to think about and have all these things to be thinking about while you're thinking about going into software engineering. So to wrap up the video, this video was not to scare anybody away from software engineering. Software engineering is a great field to go into. It can be very lucrative and you can find a bunch of different opportunities to meet different people, network, and have great environments. The same stuff I spoke about earlier in the video, working remotely, being in exotic locations. But what I am trying to get across is it's not easy and it is a grind. So same with anything, you have to grind your way to get to those spots. And it's not just an easy, oh, I'm going into software engineering and I'm going to be able to live that life. Because that is not how it works. Even if you decide to go freelance, any of that kind of stuff, it's not like that. It is tough. It's not as glorified as everyone may portray it is. It is a great career though. It just depends if it's right for you. It's definitely not to scare anybody away. And I definitely think you should do research and kind of get your hands and feet in the software engineering space, right? On your own for maybe spending money on college or anything like that. See if you like it and make your decision from there. All right. This is going to be the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment about what you want to see next. Love, peace, and chicken grease. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.